Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
Hello, it's Monday, September 27th. Thanks for joining us. I'm John Carroll in for Maya Trabulsi. It's a busy day locally in the fight against COVID-19, from new cases among kids at a North County school to new efforts to boost local testing. We start with boosters and a call out to those who are eligible to get them soon. KPBS health reporter Matt Hoffman explains.
San Diego County officials are asking those eligible for booster shots to go and get them.
The vaccine is really widely available now at hundreds of locations. We also have plenty of supply.
Those currently eligible for the Pfizer boosters 6 months after their original doses include people over 65, those with underlying conditions, and people who are at an increased risk of exposure because of their job, including healthcare workers, grocery store employees, and first responders. Supervisor Nathan Fletcher says because nearly 2.2 million San Diegans have already been fully vaccinated, our region is doing well in the fight against the pandemic. And unlike other parts of the country, our health systems are not being overwhelmed.
This new authorization for the booster shot is another step, a continuation of that effort.
If you've had the Moderna or Johnson & Johnson vaccines, officials say you'll need to wait. County Public Health Officer Dr. Wilma Wooten says the Pfizer booster is identical to the original doses, but could be changed later to address new variants.
Maybe in the coming year, if just like as every year we take the flu shot again, based on what's been circulating in the previous year, that could happen going forward. But for right now, today, the booster is the exact same vaccine.
If you're going to get a booster shot, county officials say to make sure to bring your vaccination card with you. And if you have any underlying conditions, you just need to tell them. You don't have to provide any paperwork. There aren't any current plans to open mass vaccination sites like we saw earlier in the year. You can get boosters at a county site or...
If you think about pre-COVID, where you would have gone to get your flu shot. You might have gone to your healthcare provider. You might have gone to a local pharmacy.
Not every healthcare system is administering booster doses just yet. Make sure to check ahead of time, and some may require appointments instead of walk-ins.
Beyond that, what we really want people to focus on is those individuals that have not had any vaccinations or have not had their full course.
While for now, just for those at the highest risk, booster shots could be available for everyone in the coming months. Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
Being of age and already vaccinated, President Joe Biden rolled up his sleeve today and got a COVID-19 booster shot with cameras rolling at the White House. Federal health officials have approved the Pfizer version of the shot for those 65 and older 6 months after their last vaccine. The president said First Lady Jill Biden will also receive a booster shot soon. Parents in the San Marcos Unified School District have been warned that some students have attended class while symptomatic for COVID-19, and in a few cases after testing positive for the virus. The warning came in an email from District Superintendent Andy Johnson, who urged parents to be responsible to prevent this from happening again.
Asking them to please be conscious of that, to please be aware, and that if they do have a positive case, to please stay home and follow the quarantine guidelines so that we can keep everybody healthy and safe.
San Marcos Unified has hired 7 additional staffers just to do full-time contact tracing. The county wants to provide more COVID-19 testing in southeastern San Diego. KPBS reporter Melissa May tells us how 3 churches in the area are getting involved.
The county lost a testing site when the Tubman Chavez Community Center permanently closed their doors last Thursday. It will be replaced with a new Southeastern LiveWell Center set for groundbreaking next week. But in the meantime, some local churches have stepped in to help the county continue to provide free COVID-19 testing in southeastern San Diego.
And it was really important to us to be in the community, and the churches were the ones that were offered. We weren't able to find other sites, so we had these 3 churches that stepped up to fill that void.
One of those churches is the Encanto Southern Baptist Church. That's where we found Kim Forrester, a chief at the San Diego County Health and Human Services vaccine and testing operations.
Churches are so important to the community. They are trusted partners. They're so supportive of their communities. So they stepped up to offer these services because they know how needed it is in their community.
The Tubman Chavez Center had played a vital role since the onset of the pandemic. Since June 29, 2020, it had provided over 182,000 COVID tests and more than 5,700 vaccines. The new testing facilities will expand testing availability from 5 to 7 days among the locations, and no appointment is necessary.
I'm pretty happy about that, actually.
Richard Boyd is an Ocean Beach resident and was one of the many San Diegans getting tested today.
This is very convenient, actually. It's not that far, and it's a very necessary service.
The site is utilizing an unobserved model of testing.
There are illustrated instructions on the table that walk the individual through, and if they have any questions, like I say, there's a clinician available.
Right up the street, the Bayview Baptist Church is also welcoming people who need a COVID-19 test. The 3 new free COVID-19 testing sites are the Bayview Baptist Church, Encanto Southern Baptist Church, and City of Hope International Church. Masks are required. Melissa May, KPBS News.
Overdoses, suicide, security. Those are just some of the issues inside COVID-19 quarantine hotels that are being run by San Diego County. As iNews source reporter Cody Delaney tells us, officials continue to work with a contractor that has come under scrutiny for mismanaging the program.
Without any changes to the contract, county officials gave Equus Workforce Solutions an $83 million pay raise. They also gave the company a separate $4 million contract to provide much of the same services it had been criticized for not providing. And it all happened during an independent review of the company's mismanagement. Brian Adams is a San Diego State professor who specializes in state and local politics.
The part to me that seems the most egregious is that after there were problems and in the middle of this investigation, they give them this massive increase without any apparent reason.
Short on details, a county spokesperson said the raise was intended to expand the capacity and meet the increased need. For KPBS, I'm iNews Source investigative reporter Cody Delaney.
If you or someone you know is considering suicide, call the National Suicide Prevention Hotline at 1-800-273-8255. iNews Source is an independently funded nonprofit news partner of KPBS. California's statewide eviction moratorium is set to expire at the end of the week. KPBS race and equity reporter Christina Kim looks at what the city is doing to acquire more rental assistance funding for those in need.
The city has given out more than $103 million to nearly 12,000 households to help them pay rent and utilities over the last few months. Now it has about $13 million left, and Mayor Todd Gloria doesn't expect it to last long.
We have received a tremendous number of applications. Our expectation is that money will go quickly, and that's precisely why we are letting San Diegans know if you have initiated an application, now is the time to complete it.
The city has given out funds to those in need through partnerships with groups like the San Diego Refugee Communities Coalition. Gloria hopes he can get additional state and federal funding to continue the program.
To try and make sure that every dollar that's possible to get out there, that we can bring it to San Diego, because if you entrust us with your dollars, we will use them wisely and quickly.
After Thursday, people who haven't paid rent are still protected from evictions, but only if they have applied for rental assistance. And that protection only works if there's rental assistance funds available. That's why renters need to apply for funds now and stay informed, says Gilberto Vera, senior housing attorney with San Diego Legal Aid.
It is very important for tenants to follow up on the statuses of their application and keep an open line of communication with their landlord as their emergency rental assistance progresses.
He says tenants should know their rights because they may not need to move out, even if they've received an eviction notice. In anticipation of more evictions on the horizon, Mayor Todd Gloria also announced a new legal aid program. He's proposing spending $5 million in federal funds to educate and provide legal counsel for tenants facing eviction. The San Diego City Council will consider the proposal next week. Cristina Kim, KPBS News.
A prominent Southern California congresswoman says she wants to run the state's largest city. Karen Bass is announcing her candidacy for LA mayor. Eric Garcetti will be departing due to term limits next year, though he's also been nominated by President Biden to be ambassador to India. Karen Bass has served in Congress for more than a decade in a district that includes Culver City and surrounding areas. And speaking of Congress, this will be a pivotal week. Kristen Nguyen tells us how the president's infrastructure plans and simply keeping the government running is all coming to a head.
On Capitol Hill, a make-or-break week for President Joe Biden's agenda.
We got 3 things to do: the debt ceiling, the continuing resolution, and the 2 pieces of legislation. If we do that, the country's going to be in great shape.
On the line, a potential remake of the economy at a cost of $3.5 trillion over the next decade. The Democrats' spending bill includes major investments in social programs, including universal pre-K, community college, health care, and family leave. Seniors would also see an expansion of Medicare benefits.
The Budget Committee passed out the Build Back Better legislation at the full $3.5 trillion. Obviously, with negotiations, there'll have to be some changes in that. The sooner, the better.
But congressional Democrats also face the looming threat of a government shutdown, with funding set to run out on Thursday. A Senate vote Monday to keep the government open is also tied to raising the debt ceiling and set to fail amid Republican opposition.
I will certainly be voting no if the Democrats insist on combining the debt ceiling increase or suspension with the continuing operations of the government.
Also at issue this week, a separate $1 trillion infrastructure bill providing investments in the power grid, water supply, high-speed internet, and public transit. A House vote on that package has been postponed until Thursday. Chris Nguyen, KPBS News.
One of the most popular scooter rental companies is coming back to San Diego. Lime scooters left the market early in 2020. They said it was a business move, but it followed a time of conflict with the city over regulations. Lime says it also plans to add e-bikes to its fleet. Shared transportation devices are making a comeback locally as traffic and work patterns pick up during the pandemic. San Diego Mayor Todd Gloria has a goal of adding 9 miles of protected bike lanes to city streets each year. The point is to make biking safer and more comfortable, especially for less experienced riders. But KPBS Metro reporter Andrew Bowen says for some families, the changes haven't come soon enough.
Laura Keenan picks up her 1-year-old son, Evan, sits him down in her living room, and reads him a book.
He loves this book.
Yeah.
Touch your hand if it can't. Yeah, get it in the small hand.
Evan's big blue eyes keep darting from the book to our camera. His big smile belies a horrific tragedy this family experienced 2 weeks ago. Evan's father, Matt, was biking through Mission Valley when a driver going the opposite direction crossed the road's double yellow lines and struck Matt head-on. Neither Matt's helmet nor his lights could save him. He died almost immediately.
He was just so excited to see Evan grow up and do all this stuff with Evan. Like I mentioned, he was going to take his first steps soon, and Matt wanted to teach him music and play sports with him, and he's never going to be able to do that.
Laura knows her son will grow up not knowing his father, but she's trying to keep Matt's memory alive. Her husband was funny, kind, charismatic, a caretaker, and he loved biking.
He'd ride to work. He works in La Jolla, so he'd drive from North Park to La Jolla. He would ride his bike to go to the grocery store or just run different errands. It was just, if a day went by without biking, it was not a complete day for him.
Laura's husband was riding in a narrow painted bike lane when he was hit. She's convinced if the bike lane had some kind of physical barrier, a curb, even plastic posts, Matt would still be alive today.
paint isn't protection.
Elizabeth Mayer is program manager for the nonprofit Bike SD. She says Matt Keenan's death shows many of the city's planned and existing bike lanes are inadequate, especially considering the city's adoption of Vision Zero, a campaign to end all traffic deaths by 2025.
There are certain areas that do not have protected bike lanes that we believe should. And so that definitely needs a refresher. And I think that in order to meet the goals that they set, both for climate and for Vision Zero, there needs to be swift change.
Mayor Todd Gloria says he's speeding up the process of adding new bike lanes and improving existing ones with more protection. Last week, he announced Pershing Drive in Balboa Park would have new protected bike lanes next month. That came after 2 people, a cyclist and a scooter rider, were killed by drivers on Pershing this summer.
So the mayor can, to a certain extent, redirect staff to different priorities.
Jordan Moore is a fiscal and policy analyst with the city's Independent Budget Analyst's office. He says Gloria can order city workers to create new bike lanes pretty much anywhere if he decides they're urgent. Gloria's current budget also includes a new team of 12 staffers to design and implement 9 miles of protected bike lanes per year. That's less than the 25 miles bike activists have called for. Moore says 25 miles are theoretically possible, but that would require a big shift in priorities and money.
The question would be, take 2.2 million, where would you find it, and what would those trade-offs have to be? Because it really is a question of trade-offs and service level impacts if you don't have new revenue.
In other words, bike lanes have to compete with all the city's other infrastructure needs, like filling potholes and fixing broken sidewalks. Beyond the financial challenges, new bike lanes in San Diego can be controversial. They sometimes require removing parking or a lane of travel for cars. But Laura Keenan, now a single mother, hopes those who oppose protected bike lanes keep things in perspective.
If you were able to put this bike lane there, maybe somebody would still, maybe another wife and another son would have their husband and dad one day. Because it can save a life. And I would do anything to take this pain away from anybody else, because it's just the worst experience, worse than I could ever imagine.
Andrew Bowen, KPBS News.
We're looking to stay dry over the next couple of days after getting some much needed moisture late last week. Temperatures also look to remain seasonably warm for this time of year, but it's trending a little bit warmer as we head into next weekend. For tonight, temperatures getting back down into the mid-60s in San Diego, mid-50s for you in Ramona, mid-60s in Borrego Springs, a little bit cooler than where we were last week for overnight lows. And again, that's going to continue over the next couple of days. There should be a little bit of a warm up heading into next weekend, and part of this has to do with this cold front that continues to push further and further south. It is going to be weakening as it presses further south on Tuesday across central and northern California. That's where most of the colder air is going to be, but we could see a little bit of a breeze picking up out ahead of the front, especially in some of the deserts and some of the mountains of southern portions of California. As we head into your day on Tuesday, we're back up into the low 70s, low to mid 70s in Oceanside, mid 70s for you in Escondido. Borrego Springs holding on to those low 90s, and it doesn't really look like we're going to get back up into the triple digits here anytime soon. Wednesday, cooler, drier air continues to filter back on in with that dip in the jet stream, and showers and storms kind of stay off to our east across the Four Corners region for your Wednesday. Near the coast, temperatures generally sitting in the mid 70s Tuesday, Wednesday, and then we start that warming trend again. Upper 70s by Thursday, getting up into the 80s Friday, mid 80s by the time we get to next Saturday. Further inland, temperatures also significantly on the rise from the mid 70s for your Tuesday and Wednesday up into the 90s by the time we get towards next Saturday. So much warmer air to come. In the mountains, not really seeing a whole lot of changes here. Temperatures at mid to low 60s through the next 5 days. So that warm up doesn't quite get into the mountains. And in the deserts, we could see temperatures a little bit warmer here, but generally staying in the upper 80s and low 90s over the next several days. For KPBS News, I'm meteorologist Jessica Pash.
Images of desperate Haitians rounded up by Border Patrol agents in Texas drove the news cycle last week. But what happens to the thousands who are now back in that place they're trying to escape? Melissa Bell reports on the extreme gang violence in Haiti's capital.
Here, even church is no sanctuary. The blood still marks the steps of this Baptist church in the very heart of Port-au-Prince. As Sunday service began, an armed gang attacked, wounding several of the congregation and killing one man who tried but failed to stop his wife from being kidnapped. Who will pay the ransom now, asks Marie-Yolène Gilles, a human rights advocate who explains that nothing in Haiti is now sacred and no one's safe. We are in peace nowhere, she says, not even in the president's house. He was executed, the most protected man in the country, she says, referring to the assassination of the Haitian president Jovenel Moïse in July. Gilles says this kidnapping is at least the 10th in the Haitian capital since Tuesday, the very week that has seen thousands of deportees returned to Port-au-Prince, a city many had left in the years following the 2010 earthquake, fleeing both its poverty and insecurity. Now that is only getting worse.
Each time there is an uptick in the number of kidnapping, the authorities react by having more patrol in the streets.
You can see on the streets of Port-au-Prince that increased police presence, and yet, as visible as it's intended to be, it doesn't seem to be doing much to reassure Haitians that it's safe to go out onto the streets once again. It's like a boat on the ocean with no captain, says Gilles. The country is left to its own devices. Gangs rule and keep gaining ground, so we are abandoned to our fate. Since much of it was leveled in 2010, Port-au-Prince is a city that has struggled to stand up. Now, gang violence has forced entire neighborhoods to flee what little they had, like the 219 families living inside this dilapidated school building, one of 7 camps for internally displaced people, or IDPs, in the capital. Camps that are not designed to accommodate the returnees.
Clashes between different gangs have really ballooned out of control. And so we find persons like the IDPs that are here. They had to leave their permanent village or campsite which they were residing in since the earthquake in 2010. So imagine that.
In all, the United Nations says that 20,000 people in Port-au-Prince have been displaced by gang violence in the last year. A homeland even more dangerous to those being deported by the United States this week than the one they fled. Melissa Bell, CNN, Port-au-Prince, Haiti.
I'm Judy Woodruff. Tonight on the NewsHour, Democratic divide. Dueling factions of President Biden's party threaten the passage of his legislative agenda. Coming up at 7 after Evening Edition on KPBS.
So many major wildfires have done enormous damage in recent years, especially in Northern California. Those who've lost everything are relying on community support, and as Aaron Heft reports, that includes kids who could use an emotional boost.
I'm trying not to cry. Meet Brooklyn, Colin, and Graceland.
Our house burned down in Paraguay neighborhood.
Did you lose toys and stuff?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry that happened. They're 3 of the hundreds of children who lost everything to the Caldor fire.
Hello.
Though that chapter ends today.
Hi! I heard you guys lost your dirt bikes that you guys worked really hard for. Do you guys want these ones? Thousands of toys sprawled out across the yard of Pioneer Union Elementary School. Ashley Smith and her family to thank. We've been doing this for about 14 years now.
Their family's home burning down twice as she grew up, and now Ashley's gifted over 3 million toys to kids just like her.
I understand what these kids are going through, and that's why we give them toys.
Founding the nonprofit, Ashley's Toy Closet, they travel to natural disasters, all to put smiles on these little faces.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
2 donated dirt bikes.
What do you tell everyone?
Thank you.
And gear.
I don't know what's all in there. Take whatever fits you.
I need a knee pad for my bike. I always crash.
It all goes home with them today.
This has to be so meaningful as a parent.
Oh, more than you know. I can't put it into words. I never thought this would happen.
You want to take a picture?
Ashley and her toy closet giving each family a kickstart to this new beginning.
You have fun with them, okay?
Aaron Heft reporting there. Here's another look at today's top stories. San Diego County says it's ready for an uptick in vaccine demand now that boosters are recommended for certain groups. County Supervisor Nathan Fletcher says the vaccine is now available at hundreds of public and private locations. Those over 65 with underlying health risks or those who work with vulnerable groups are urged to get the extra shot as long as it's been at least 6 months since the last one. One of San Diego's busiest COVID-19 testing locations is closed, but others are filling the void. 3 churches in southeastern San Diego, Bayview Baptist, Encanto Southern Baptist, and City of Hope International, are now offering tests to the community. The Tubman Chavez Center recently closed after administering nearly 200,000 COVID-19 tests. City of San Diego expects to run out of money soon for its rental assistance program. Mayor Todd Gloria is urging anyone who started an application to complete it so it can get into the system. Evidence of an in-progress application can help protect those in danger of eviction. And here's a look at what we're working on for tomorrow in the KPBS newsroom. How far away are we from COVID-19 shots being available for younger kids? Morning Edition will be following the latest from Pfizer and the CDC. And on Midday Edition, the Padres are wrapping up their season this week. What's next for the team after falling short of a return trip to the playoffs? You can find tonight's stories on our website, and that is kpbs.org. Thank you so much for joining us on this Monday night. Have a great evening.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following: and by viewers like you. Thank you.